Hi folks, I'm Charles, the host of Go-to-Market Hackers and a SaaS founder who spent close to 15 years scaling B2B SaaS. Now, normally, I interview go-to-market architects and engineers on this show to understand how they use AI to unlock massive growth. But this episode is a bit different. My guests today aren't GTM engineers and sales leaders. They're a QA manager and a tech ops manager at a tech company called Vira. So I'm interviewing them because together they vibe coded an app that's in production and that's being used by hundreds of employees inside their company. They don't have a coding background. They just are basically two people who saw a need and shipped software that's now saving their teammates hundreds of hours on a weekly basis. So here's why this matters. SaaS company stocks right now are tanking as more and more businesses are realizing that they can vibe code these custom tools internally instead of paying for expensive SaaS licenses. So vibe coding isn't just a fancy new tech trend, it's reshaping the entire go-to-market landscape. And so this episode is a deep dive into the vibe coding trend and what it means for go-to-market in the age of AI. Noi, Sivan, really excited to have you on the show. I'm really excited about this episode because obviously vibe coding, everybody's talking about vibe coding these days. And I really think that vibe coding is going to change the entire tech landscape. It's certainly going to change also the go-to-market landscape, which is something I think about every day. And so it's really a pleasure to have you on to dive a little bit into this side project that you guys started at Via. And really want to understand kind of the different moving parts and how you built it, and just so many questions that come to mind. But maybe before we dive into the cool thing you guys have built, you can start by sharing a little bit about who you are. Tell us a little bit about your roles at Via, and then we'll dive into Vira and share with the world what you guys are building.
First of all, Charles, thanks for having us. We definitely feel like we built something super cool that has a great impact, and we get a lot of positive reactions and people who are curious about how we did it. So I think it's a good opportunity for us as well. So we're happy to be here.
Thank you. I will start. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm Sivan. I'm a QA team lead at Vira for the last 5 years. We're doing the front-end client experience QA at Vira, all Vira products. That's it from my side.
So I'm Noi, as you said. I'm a tech ops here at Via. Basically, it means that I'm a program manager of one of the biggest group in Via. We have about 400, 500 developers here in Via. And me and Sivan are coming from the same group. So for each group of developers, there's one program manager that works with the team on the planning, the processes, and so. And I'm also leading the tech ops guild in Via because there is 7 of us, one for each dev group. This is it. I've been here for the past 2.5 years. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I know that you shared, I guess, before the show that you're a group of magnificent 7 women that's working on this. Unfortunately, I'm not interviewing all of you, but I have, I think, 2 great candidates. And Sivan, it sounds like you were the seed that started this. So maybe just to repeat what both of you said, you're obviously Via, which is a tech company building the backbone of modern infrastructure and transportation. So tech, you're both in tech. Sivan, you have a QA hat, and Noi, it's more on the project management, tech operations. But just to be clear, and just for the viewers to understand, you're not developers, right? You don't typically code. That's not part of your scope of work. And yet here you are, you're building a tool internally that's being used by, a couple hundred folks at Via. So I guess I just really want to understand how that came to be. And of course, get your confirmation that you're not secretly hackers and coding in Java on weekends.
For sure not. I mean, I can speak for myself. I'm not even doing QA, right? I mean, I'm doing project managers for the past 10 years. I don't know how to write a code. I know how to look at one and maybe, get something from it, but we don't know how to write. We don't know how to be a developers. I think that for a long time, being a true developer that learned engineering, and practice languages, it's something very hard to get. And it's like, only few people know how to do it, usually men. And now what we discover that it's anyone can code, right? And you don't have to be a developer. You don't have to have the knowledge. What you do have to have is curiosity and an idea and a solution that you want to get done really good. And that's it.
And a pain, because
And a
this
pain.
this story came from a pain I started with. I had a pain, a gap. You were calling it whatever you want, but it came from a pain I used to have. It's all starts with a pain, right? Every
Right.
great project came from a pain or a gap, but eventually I built it. I can say for myself, I never code. Okay, I used to learn code like 15, 20 years ago. Sorry for long time ago, but I didn't use it. I only QA for the last 15 years. And now that the vibe coding insert into our lives, it becomes really, really, I won't say easy, but very
Approachable,
approachable.
Accessible,
Nice,
yeah.
accessible, approachable.
accessible. Yeah.
To use.
Possible, right?
Possible.
It wasn't
Right.
possible before. We used to have, oh, I have an idea. I wish I knew how to code and to build an app and to be an entrepreneur. Now you don't need all of that.
And now anyone can code.
So I love that. Anyone can code. So can we dive into the origin story a little bit more, Sivan, and I guess why you started building these? You talked a little bit about, the pain that you had. What were you doing or what were teams doing before you started building Vira, which is the name of the product you guys are building internally? And again, why was it necessary to build it? And then, we can go from there with a lot of other questions.
So my day-to-day work is managing my team, of course. My team task. I have 7 employees under me, and I have to manage their task, building the plan for the next sprints and for the upcoming for the existing one, doing test reviews, doing a lot of things that's spread across multiple features. And so I had a gap that I couldn't see the whole story of all the epics. I had to go each epic in Jira and search for the timeline and for the correct task and to understand for each epic. And I'm working on several epics in parallel. I had to understand what is the timeline. Are we good in showing this? Are we good in tracking ourselves across the timeline of the feature? So this was my pain, my gap. I couldn't find it. I had to go talk with the TPM, understand. It took a lot of time. So I decided to use Cursor and just start building my own timeline Gantt that's pulling the correct and existing Jira tickets and Jira data and showing me the timeline Gantt for all the features. So I had a one view showing me all the features timeline.
I think the pain that Sivan is talking about, and we all feel it in the tech world, I think Jira is a really great product to manage your work, and we're all working with Jira, right? Especially for dev work. So the tickets are there, the data is there, the day-to-day work is there, your teammate, you're working with your team members, and you can manage everything there. But when it comes to managers or project managers, program managers, people who needs
Right.
to connect the bottom,
Right.
bottom part of the workers to the upper management needs to understand and see the bottom line. It's hard, and sometimes Jira is not enough. So what we used to do, and we all do it, is get into Excels, Google Doc, all kind of external files that are not synced with Jira, but we're trying to use them in order to build the clean view that we want to show to the management, because you can't really see the big picture
High
when you
level. Right.
exactly. So this is what we were missing, because you had to do it anyway. Anyways, we used to do Excel, Google
Sure.
Sheet, create everything manually. So, this is just the truth. So what we wanted to do is to stop with the manual work, to stop with the pain and the time that we're wasting on trying to build something that is not automated, not synced with the source of truth, which is Jira, and something that is just not good enough, right? The view of Excel is also pretty messy when it's a lot of data. So Sivan just did it herself.
Yes.
She did the first product, the first page, we call it a model. The first model she did was just a Gantt of the projects for her, so she can see by herself what's coming next, when she needs to be ready, and she can see everything in one view coming directly from Jira.
It saved me a lot of time. Seeing all the project in all my features, all my team features in one Gantt timeline saved me a lot of time chasing TPM it and dev teams and Jira and understanding what are the timelines and where are we standing.
Right. And consolidating all the user stories, the test planning, the everything into, I guess, a visualization that helps you basically connect the dots and have maybe a more strategic view of the business.
Exactly. And it starts with, first of all, fetching the data and just seeing everything from Jira. But then the next step would, I don't want to go back and forth to Jira. I want to see everything in one place. So then the second phase was also to write to Jira.
To read and write along the way. I don't want to see this in my application and then go to Jira to update. I want to do it in parallel.
Okay, so makes sense. The pain and the gap that you guys are describing makes a lot of sense. I love it. And so how do you decide just to start this as a side project? So you said you did this with Cursor. And I guess, Sivan, do you have to ask for approval, or are you just like, hey, I'm just going to do this? Because as you said, you have to actually connect to Jira. So this is, sensitive data maybe. So do you have to formally ask for approval to be able to start building this on the side? How does that even work? Do they have buy-in? Are they like, yeah, sure, let's go? Or did you face some resistance in doing this?
Vira didn't resist. I just opened Cursor because Vira, a few months ago, Vira opened Cursor for all the company. And I decided that this is my chance to use it for my own pain and dive into it. So I start using it, start connecting the MCP. I got all the MCPs from our department. They used MCP for Jira, for Conference, Atlassian and everything.
Yeah.
And I use it and I play with it. I just dive into it and add errors, a long chat with the Cursor until we had that.
I think the first turning point was that Sivan showed it to me as, hey, Noi, look what I did. That's nice. That's cool. Maybe it can help. It helps me. Maybe it can help, what do you think about it? And I was like, poof, like small lamp above my head saying, wow, this is amazing. This is what we need. It can change our world. It can change the way we think and do about program management and project managers. And I said, before Sivan says there's a lot of TPMs. TPM stands for technical project managers. So we have project managers in Via that helps deliver the project because, the product is pretty complex and we want to work smarter and not harder. So what I did when I saw Sivan's solution, I said, you know what, we have to show it to other project managers and let's see if it makes sense that all of the project management in VIA will work with that. Because it's one thing to write something in the middle of the night, try to do vibe coding, and then you have something for you. But then it's a whole different story if it's something that the whole company can use and can really impact, so many people, because VIA is a pretty big company. So it's nice. And also the culture here is so, encouraging.
Yes.
Be brave, be bright, try new things, work with AI, like whatever you need, which idea you have, we're with you, go for it. Like we don't want to stop the innovation or the creativity that you guys have. So we got full support for that. And so when I showed it to the project managers, they were like, wow, we can totally use it. We need a few more requirements. And we said, okay, what do you need? So we wrote all the requirement. And usually in a normal, let's say, SaaS company, you get requirement from your users until it's running in production. It's, I don't know, months, quarters.
Few months.
Sivan did it in 2 days. In 2 days, during the nights, they got what they wanted, right? Our users were the project managers, and they're like, boom, we can work with that. And that then pretty quick, all of the project management work transformed to Vira. And then people...
No Excel anymore. No Excel anymore.
And no more Excel. They used to have a different Excel for each project, which is a bit hard to manage because there's tons of projects we're running in parallel. And also, it's not synced with Jira. So you can have something in your Excel, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's what the team is working on Jira. So that was, I think, the first step when we said, okay, we have one department checked. They're working with that. We can share. We have a picture of the Gantt.
Yeah.
So Charles, if you want to share it.
So this is the one, right?
Yes. What you see here is you can really see, you can choose the epics that you're working on. There is some filters. You don't see everything in the screenshot, but you can filter by epic owner. You can filter by teams, and you can see everything here. You can expand the view. You can see all the tasks, all the milestones, the story points that I'm going to invest team by team by team, which creates a full timeline that is one source of truth. This is the timeline. If it's on Jira, it means the team will work on it and it's here. So for sure it's going to happen. So, project managers started doing their syncs, their weekly syncs with Vira and started saying to the teams, I don't see your task here. Can you please add the task to Jira so I will see it on Vira? By the way, Vira is Via with Jira.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
love it. Great name.
Few days, all the project management work shift to Vira. That was the first thing we said, okay, we have no longer running Excels running around of Gantt for project timelines. We have everything in one place. And then we said,
let's move to the capacity prep.
Yeah, let's take another Excel or,
Huge Excel.
Yeah,
huge Excel.
The next big Excel we worked on, it's called the capacity prep. It's basically the way we, the tech ops, plan the work for the dev teams. Because as I said, the product in VIA is pretty complex. So for each epic, you have to work through so many teams in order to get what you want and to do it in the best way. So there are several, projects running around, but you need to plan your sprint, right? Your plan. So we used to sit every week and look at two things in two sources. One was Jira, because this is the way team leads manage their work, right? So you see everything in Jira. But then the other source was, how am I as a program manager, how do I communicate your work? I can't show upper management just all your tasks on Jira because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't give you the bottom line. So we had an Excel sheet that was manually updated, and then the team lead had to update Jira because that's the tool he's working on, and also the Excel. So I can show and communicate the plan to make sure we're aligned, to make sure where we stand with the quarterly planning, and so and so. And we said we don't want to have two sources of truth. We took that Excel and we just transferred everything to Vira. And again, the process is super simple. It's like, hi, Sivan, this is the Excel. Please, I want to have it on Vira. I want to see this and that. It needs to be updated from here and there. This is the view that I want to see. And then in a few days.
It took us a few days. It was a big Excel that's complex statistics and counts, but a few days it was ready. And this Excel became deactivated anymore.
Yes, no one uses the old Excel anymore.
That's it. And it was saved them, I think, 2-3 hours
at least a week.
Crazy. So I just took some notes, but if you don't mind, I want to back up a little bit because you were speeding. There's so much information here, and I just want to make sure that I capture it, correctly, and I summarize maybe for the viewers. But so if I really back up, you said the adoption was actually pretty quick because Via is super pro AI, enabling you guys to leverage the latest tools. And so that wasn't a bottleneck. Then you obviously had this very, specific pain. You started building this first, Gantt for your epics that you're running based on the bottlenecks that you were seeing. And then the first person you turn to is Noy, and you say, hey, Noy, check this out. Noy, you got super excited. Then from there, it sounds like you suggested a few tweaks. You presented it to some more program managers, TPMs. Everybody got excited. It sounds like pretty quickly it started spreading, meaning it started being adopted by other users. It sounds like, Sivan, also you're a magician. I mean, I know that you're all now kind of vibe coding this, but you were also turning around some of these changes very quickly. I think you said in 2 days you released, something really, really impressive. I do have questions though, because what for me sounds concerning is when you're saying, hey, we had all these spreadsheets in Google Docs where we had all this information, but we all know that those are pretty stable. Those are pretty secure. And there's different versions, right? There's versioning in Google Doc, and you're not going to lose your data. So I guess a question related to, you were going very fast. How is this connected in the back end to a database? And were you QAing things to make sure, well, hey, we just replaced this huge Excel sheet. What if suddenly this kind of just disappears and we lose, 6 months of data or however much data there was in there? So I'm just curious about that process of like QAing, making sure that you have enough guardrails so that things don't blow up internally.
It's a nice question. It's a good
Good question, Charles. You're really good at that. You should consider hosting a podcast.
Maybe we'll turn this call into a podcast.
Let's see.
So at the beginning, when I started building this project, I didn't know code, right? So I just
Right.
the cursor start building it. I didn't think about database and what language to use and what anything to use. Okay. I think pretty quick we understand we need some architecture around this project. So we got architecture from our group, and it helped us to understand what database we need for this. And I think after the second module, we prepared a database, AWS Dynamo database, along with other architecture and infra stuff. And nowadays we have a database. It's saving all the data there. We have a backup. Don't worry.
No, I trust you. I just wanted to understand how you got there. So to make sure I understand, it sounds like you have a colleague that maybe was a DevOps or somebody on the back end that helped you, kind of guided you towards how to set up the infrastructure. You basically hosted this on AWS, and now you have something that's stable and correct?
Yes. And we need to, first, we want to be honest about it. We did get some help from our friend Alon. He's the architecture of our group, because
Nice.
we understood pretty quickly that we want to be serious about that and we want to do it right. And it's true that we are vibe coding. By the way, Alon, the architect, I think he didn't write any code. He just helped us with the infrastructure and to get what we need, how to connect to the right repository. And, I think maybe we're not developers, true, but we are program managers, QA leaders. We know how to build a good plan. Like I understood pretty quickly that needs to be done right. So we set up a project for us on Jira. We set up a team. We set up automations. We set up processes. We had, meetings that we need to sync meetings that we need to be in pretty quick. We said, okay, we're getting so many contributors. By the way, maybe that's the interesting part. So many people saw it and got excited, and they said, well, if Sivan and Noy can do it, we want to do it as well.
Crazy.
And we showed them, Sivan used to sit with them for a few minutes, maybe half an hour, just to set everything they need. They request an access for Cursor from IT. They got it really quick. And then we got into a point that we are a group of 7, as you said, 7 ladies who are not developers, right? This is a non-development project, but we are doing code. We are using Git. We are doing deployment. And so in order to be responsible, and as I said, we used our knowledge that's not coming from being a developer, but coming from other places in order to do it right. So we got a lecture from an architecture that told us about Git and versions and how to do it right. And we talked to security to make sure we're aligned and that we're good to go. And we have a sync every week we're meeting with the director of AI of the company, and he's
Amazing.
showing us how to build, how to configure rules and use the right MCPs and how to use the agent. And
Amazing.
we're bringing our own problems like, hey, I tried again and again. And I said, come on, do it right. And I don't know how to do it right. And then he's telling us you have to use the browser, enable your bot to use the browser, and then he can see it by himself. And so we want to do it right. So there's like a whole circle of alignment, making sure that even though we're not developers and we want to keep it that way,
We keep on.
we're still doing it in the right way.
Yeah.
So again, super interesting. Lots of questions. So maybe just to confirm, now it's been how long? Like 6-7 weeks you've been working on this? Is that right? Is it a little bit longer?
2 months and
It's launched 2 months ago.
Yeah.
It's launched.
2 months ago. Okay, so 8 weeks. Got it. 8 weeks since launched this, but now it's a pretty mature product. As you said, you also have, there's, I don't know if it's 7 core features, or is it like one product or is it 7 products? I mean, there's different pieces to this.
Model, different model, different
models.
You can call it. And what's nice about it is that each page or model, there's one department that's the main user, right? So we have the main user for the Gantt, the project Gantt that Sivan showed. So now one of the TPMs, one of the technical project manager, she is the main user of that page, of that model. She's also contributing to Vira and doing vibe coding and building the features that she wants for herself.
We insert it. Yeah.
She's also doing the QA for herself. She's doing the deployment. She's doing everything. So it's all in one. Obviously, it all goes by Sivan.
That's my question also. And I think maybe I skipped this before, but this is still a side project. You still have your day jobs, right? So, and you don't sit under engineering. You I guess, Sivan, which group do you sit under? And Noy, what does that look like for you?
Same group.
We're in the same group. We are in the engineering department, but we're not co-developers. We're part of the engineering group. But yeah, we're doing it. I mean,
but the
on top
it's
of
crazy.
That, yeah,
it's like our job. We're running a small startup of 2 women within company.
Yes.
Right. And so you're 7 total working on these different models. And even like these versioning and committing code, and how do you do all this in parallel? Do you just trust each other and like, all right, we're just committing? Or is there somebody reviewing? Like, because I feel like you're just going to rebuild the engineering org with the proper infrastructure at the scales, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking old school engineering and the future of vibe coding is very different.
Dev team. We are like a dev small team because we have a Git repository and everyone is putting there and working on their branch. And after committed and preparing a merge request, or the architect, we are approving it. We are going over it, making sure that nothing is break. And
we can say it didn't start like that. At the beginning, it was like, woo, new toy. It was like we're 7 ladies. Each one is in the middle of a meeting and we're working with Vira, right? At that stage, everything is with Vira. There's the weekly meeting that every VP is doing with his group. There's the pre-planning to make sure the sprint is ready. There's the project sync. And then we can be on a meeting showing something on Vira, and then one of the VPs would say, you know what, it would be really nice if I can filter by, and then we're like, it's ready.
It was only me walking there.
It's amazing. It's really
amazing. Now
large, all of us. And then we saw that it can be a bit dangerous, and as I said, we're trying to be super responsible, and we said, you know what, we can't just push things to master like crazy. This has to be organized, and now there's like an approval, and only Sivan or Alon, the architect, can.
But what's funny is this is still just 8 weeks old. Like this is like a newborn, right? This is a newborn product, and already you're putting it. You've scaled so quickly. You've added so many features that already you're like, okay, we need to slow it down a bit, add some structures and guardrails to make sure that when we're committing code and have different approval process, and you have to go through certain security and et cetera. So it's becoming. That's what I'm saying. It's becoming a real mini engineering org. And, I think when I think about vibe coding, and there's a lot of folks, throwing shade at vibe coding and that say it's, it's a joke, it's a toy and those other
Yeah, but
things.
you know why? Saying it because they're developers. So they're doubted that this can be amazing and replace them. We don't have that, you know, dignity of like, it can't do the
Yeah,
code than I do because I don't know how to code. This is what I have. I have to trust it and it works. So I think it's easier from our
totally.
perspective.
I agree. I think another part is that a lot of people start making fun of saying, okay, great, you can vibe code a little app or a little project. But then when it comes to scaling it and maintaining it, right, that's what becomes complicated. And you're proving that you've launched. Now you have a couple hundred users internally at Via who are using this. You've scaled out even how you're building this across multiple, vibe coders or, model owners, whatever you want to call it. And you're putting in place practices.
We have a Slack group called Vira Developers. No one is a developer in that group. But we start talking about dev issues and sending like, YouTube videos that helps and, everything that we found online that can help. And we're sharing our problems. And you know what? I found out yesterday that if you can do this and that, then it's easier for you to understand. I think it's like you said, it's a new world of coding. And I think in a way, you have to be a non-developer in order to really run with it quickly,
Right.
and dive into it because we have no like defenses.
I would say something. It wasn't always easy. Okay, we had some hard time. Okay, we had some hard time around basically infra and architecture. What language to use? Okay, then it used the JavaScript instead of Python, for example. Why? Because Cursor decided, and I didn't understand what does it mean. Where state should live, when to refactor. A lot of questions. How to prevent refetch loops. A lot of questions. Handling timeouts.
How to solve conflict.
A lot of questions. API
Right.
timeouts. What to do. How to handle. It wasn't that easy. It wasn't lightful all the time, but
But you just tackled it one at a time. And
time.
I think
Yes, go ahead.
it sounds like you guys have a really open and kind of innovative culture at Via, which is great. You're taking ownership yourselves. It's a pain that you're feeling firsthand. So I understand that you really want to, solve for that pain. And you said, just the Excel saves 2 to 3 hours a week for folks. So it's a lot that compounds across all the people that are using this. So it solves a big pain. And also, you're getting, it sounds like, a lot of feedback live, whether it's in a conference room or on a call or with your colleagues that are using this on a daily basis. So you can iterate much faster and add new capabilities and features much faster than a traditional engineering team would. I mean, it sounds like, at least, right?
Speed was, I think, one of the factors that blew people's mind. They were like sending a Slack message to Sivan, maybe you can add this and that. And she was like, a few hours, boom, it's ready. And they're not used to that phase, right? It's crazy. It's like, you know what?
Right.
I want to do something new. I want to add a new tab and then you can see all the data. And she was like, boom, 2 hours, it's ready. You can use it.
Yes.
And also we were adding more and more features and, things that will help us make sure it's working well. So we had a feedback button on the Vira. So you can send feedback and then the feedback goes, you need to add some fields, like where do you want it? Why exactly do you need it? And then it goes straight to our project in Jira and we see it and we do prioritization meeting and we have a process. So we're making sure that maybe the code is not made by a developer, but the process, the QA, the quality, the management is top level. So I think it's more
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
than the level of the code, right? At that stage.
Correct.
So, and it sounds like this product is growing, right? There's more and more models, more and more forms that you guys are automating. So it's becoming bigger and bigger. Sounds like there's more and more users internally that are using it. So it's also very exciting for you. I guess, yeah, I have a lot of questions around like, how do you scale this? And I think I'll have to have you back on this in like 6 months or a year, because I feel like it's going to get so big, so important. Maybe somebody's going to say, hey, maybe we should have, somebody look at this more, more specifically, or I don't know, like this is the question is how do you like, by the way, do you even know how many lines of codes you have at this point? Because it's probably impossible to,
A lot, a lot.
review a lot. Yeah.
It doesn't
So,
matter, right? I mean, we need to stand by a specific budget. It's not unlimited forever, but whatever we need, we get, and it's working. People, at the beginning were hesitating if this is going to work or not. Remember, there were a few team leads that we asked for their opinion to get some requirement for
mhm,
for the product, and they were like, "I'm not sure if it's going to work." And then
It's in Jira, we can try it. Let's see. I don't think it will work for you.
and everyone were shocked of, I think it's a mix of how fast we're working. It's like
right.
people used to joke, like we wake up in the morning and there's 10 new features. And then
Wow,
we
that's amazing.
added release notes to the app, to the product.
With each feature explanation of what we changed in the last day.
So
And
people
it was
can
a lot.
so people can track all the new features. And so I think the speed, the way it used to work really good because we're so close to the product.
Right.
It's not like creating a product and the client, the user is
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
out
for sure.
to talk with him in order to understand exactly what he wants. It's like we're the users, our colleagues are the users, so we understand what they want, we can fix it super fast. It's all working. It's like, building dreams. I think in VI, it's like the approach is sort of like the Disney quote: if you can dream it, you can make it.
Right.
We had
So no, I love it. It's really inspiring. That's why, and you're both very inspiring, and you have a lot of energy. So that's why I really wanted to have you on the show. But again, I have so many questions. Just taking a step back again, is there somebody who formally owns this product? Is it you, Sivan? And if shit hits the fan, we're going. So yes, you're the
Mom is the maven. She's the tech lead. She created it. It's
okay.
her. So yeah, if something is going down and there is a problem, then Sivan knows how to solve it. The architect knows how to solve it.
Right.
Now there's many other contributors. If it's in my model,
Right.
I know how to solve it. If it's in the project
Or she
guy,
will ask me.
okay, I will ask Sivan. There's documentation that she
Yes.
built with
Building
Cursor. We
documentation.
told Cursor, please,
Right.
build the documentation.
Help us to build a conference.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. So what if, God forbid something happens to you, Sivan, somebody needs to own this, and how do you pick up and maintain? So it sounds like you're starting to build all the documentation around it as well.
We ask Cursor, please build us a conference for it, for each model and for the database.
Amazing.
Everything.
Please build us the HLD.
Yes, everything. And we are keeping this live all the time because it built
Amazing.
it weeks ago, but still we need to keep it
And
up.
it's growing, all these features. Do you have a formal product roadmap, or is this kind of like a little bit ad hoc? How do you prioritize those different features that you guys are adding?
So as I said, since we're coming from the project and QA world,
Yeah.
first everything is super organized. There's a process for everything. And we do have a roadmap. We do have a prioritization process. Again, what I said, it's so cool that one person is the end user, is the product, the developer, the QA, everything. So we have a product for each one of the models. And then the product decides how to prioritize the tasks for his model. And we have Nevo, who is the head of tech ops, is the head of all the tech operations in VIA. And he knows to look at everything to see the wider picture, and he's prioritizing it between the different models. And we have, a board in Jira. We work super, super organized. We have announcements. We have offsite.
Incredible.
Right? We need to do offsite for the team.
And it's really mind blowing. And so just so I understand, it sounds like organically there's this kind of like grassroots people who are raising their hands and saying, hey, I want to join. I want to be part of this team to build it as a side project too. Because you're basically recruiting, of course, people are still keeping their full-time job, but other folks to basically vibe code this with you. Is that accurate?
Exactly. So really, what you said.
Amazing.
I don't know why
And
all ladies were saying, I want to join, I want to do it as well, because they're curious and they know what they want, because they are the main user of the product. So they know what they want to build for themselves. Here, maybe sometimes, they're a product owner, but they build the things at night, vibe coding, things they want for them.
Right.
You can just
Right.
make your dream
This is
come true.
different. Yeah.
Think about yourself. When you're using a product, you can't really, get into the code and change things.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing. And there was also a very big difference in building something. Like I've built some apps for myself, as I said, or even locally built some apps on my Mac. But there's a very big difference in pushing something to production and having hundreds of users using it on a daily basis. And now it's part of their workflows, right? It's part of their day-to-day. If something crashes, it's on you guys. So it takes a lot of, courage too, to really go out there, build it, ship it, QA it, launch it into production. So really, really impressive. I know that we shared already one screenshot of the Gantt. You shared a couple others, so maybe I can share the screen and you can speak through some of these screenshots so that folks really have a better sense of what the product does. Again, I'm not taking in any particular order. So this is another model, right, that you guys built in Vira, or what are we looking at right now?
Yeah, this is the exact tracker. This used to be a big Excel sheet that all the executive managers were using to show and discuss on their weekly sync meetings about all the epics that Via is working on. So each line here represent a feature with all the details coming from Jira. So it's one source of truth, and they can write to Jira and read from Jira. So they have here even to update the feature status, to see the timeline and the milestone. And they can see like the comments. They can write to each other comments on each epic here. And it's very helpful. It's, I think, saved them a lot of time. And it's keep saving this on the database.
And we can add things to it that they weren't able to add on Excel. For example, you can see a flag if you're missing the target timeline that you needed.
Yeah, the epic milestone.
The epic milestone, if you're late, they can just say, you know what, I want to see here this and that. I want to be able to add, things that they couldn't on the Excel, and now they can. As Sivan mentioned, they can comment each other, and then we also have an integration with Slack, and they will get notification on Slack. They can filter it however they want, super easily.
Yeah.
Sort it, and the UI is super clean. I think, maybe because we're part of the front end group, so we're building the product for VIA users, but we're in a close relationship with the front end.
Yes,
right?
Right. So like using developing, and we are also doing the design here. Right.
But I think we took some inspiration from the clean UI that the VIA product is using. Right? Sivan is doing QA for VIA pages, and the UI is super clean and neat and easy to read. So I think we took some inspiration from that as well.
Yeah. Love it. So let me cycle through. What else do I have here? I guess this is similar. I don't know if that was a different page. Wait, there's this one. Yes. Which I don't think we covered already.
Yes.
Via capacity prep.
Yes, this was a big Excel that we are using. Okay, you want to draw? Okay. A big Excel that the team leads, and as she said, working for planning their sprint, for planning the team capacity sprint, and it's very clean, showing all the story points for each epic and what is their estimation along to the total at the end, and they can fill it from here through Jira. They can write it to Jira, directly to Jira, and creating tasks from here by the draft mode. Yeah, they can.
Amazing. So this is pushed to Jira. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Very cool.
This is coming from Jira, reading from Jira, and then while I'm doing the draft mode, it's being writing to Jira.
I can say, as the person in charge of the pre-planning in the group, pre-planning used to be a meeting with 2, maybe 3 different sources of truth that we need in order to understand the plan. And then it would take, I don't know, half an hour or even more, 45 minutes. Now with Vira, we're doing the pre-planning in 10 minutes.
Wow.
That's it.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes. I think you're
It's-
missing one screenshot, the team level update. You
So
sent
wait,
it?
there's this one. There's this one.
Okay, no. So we didn't do it.
Oh, this is the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, these are the 4 slides that you had shared with me.
Okay. There's another model, the team level update. What happened there is interesting. Usually there's the VP is doing a weekly meeting with his teams to understand what's the status of the different teams and their work items. And it used to be Google Doc, not sync with Jira, not sync with anything basically. And they had to fill it manually week by week. And then what the VP would do to review it is to look at what they did and to look at the executive summary the executive tracker that used to be an Excel sheet, and he would make sure that both of the sources are aligned and then there is no gap. And then I did it one time, replacing him when he was out of office. And then I said, you know what? We have everything on Vira. It doesn't have to be manual. I told Sivan, it was Saturday. I told her, let's meet for a coffee. In 2 hours, we took the Google Doc, inserted it into the team level update model, created a new model, and now you can see everything in one place. You can get flags and see if it's in one line and aligned with the exec status tracker. You can see all the status, all the information you need. The dev team is, they don't need to spend hours to, sync a different file that is not synced with that. And I think it's,
Cool.
yeah, it's all coming from
Super.
real, you understand?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, makes sense. And then this is the last, I guess, screenshot you shared. I also realized that I think earlier I was saying models, but I think did you mean modules? Like there are different. Okay, modules. Okay, so these are the different modules that folks can pick. You had mentioned 7. I'm seeing 5 here, so I'm assuming you can kind of toggle left and right to see more.
This is an old screenshot, and now.
Oh, okay.
And the new one. I think you should see the new one with 6 models.
I didn't send it because I sent this one.
See, things move so fast. It moves so fast. You send me one, 20 minutes later, you have a new interface.
Every new person who's not from the dev department who sees this, like, I want Vira for my things as well. And like,
That's
there's
amazing.
a long list of things we can do. I think the key here is you want to do something for your department, you can see what we did, we can help you, and then we can start, we can, help you, but go ahead and do it yourself.
The most important thing that Vira did, I think one of the most important things is the revolution, is the mindset, the change of the mindset that this project did for everyone, I think, in Vira. Correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone started to talk vibe coding, to think vibe coding.
Democratizing code.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's really, really super impressive. I love what you guys did. I guess maybe I'll stop sharing because I think folks now have a better sense of like these different modules and what they solve for. It's super helpful to see some screenshots like this. One question I have maybe for other folks watching this and thinking, well, hey, I want to do this too. Like, what advice do you give other non-technical folks? That could be project managers, that could be on the product team, whatever, that are working within organizations, not developers, but wanting to build apps like this. What recommendation advice would you have for them?
First, just jump into the water. Just don't be afraid. Go into it. I just talked to one of the colleagues here. Just start vibe coding. Anyone can code really like this. Start understanding your needs and build your PRD and think about what will be the MVP and write it to Cursor, write it to any of the vibe coding, cloud or anything. Just do it.
Right.
And if you're stuck, you can ask ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT or any other chat. Like, I want to start vibe coding. I want to use Cursor. What should I do? And he would tell you, like, we got into a point that every question, every task we had, we used an AI tool to answer it. So
Amazing.
sometimes we used to ask the chat GPT, I want to ask Cursor to do something. Please write me the best prompt so I can talk. So we used to talk with two agents in parallel to make it easier. I would also say, at the end of the day, we're not all robots, we're people. And I think it does help to get, to ask for help. You can come to one of your engineers that is nice and understanding infrastructure and tell him, I want to do something like build a product in vibe coding. Can you just help me with the setup of what repository, how to get to AWS, just the very beginning. I believe that in a few months, even that will be through Cursor. You can just download Cursor and ask him, hi, I want to have everything that I need in order to start. Please install everything. Boom. And he will install it for you. And every question you have with Cursor, you can ask the chat or you can ask Gemini.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think the other thing that I'll say is, I mean, I think you were, I don't want to say lucky, but you're, I guess, fortunate in a way to also be in a very supportive environment where people are very kind of bullish and open to these tools. And so hopefully there's also leaders and managers listening to this, thinking about how they can encourage this kind of entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, whatever you want to call it, within their own teams, within their own businesses, because it's super inspiring. And yeah, I love, what you said, Sivan, also like just jumping in the water, start writing, the idea of like, what's in the PRD, what are the moving parts? What are you solving for? What do you want it to have? And just start with something that's, that doesn't necessarily boil the ocean, a limited set of features you're looking for, and then start with that. So really love it. Maybe parting question. And again, I do think we'll have to meet again in a couple months. I feel like with vibe coding, time is compressing. So I was going to say maybe in 6 months, but in 6 months, maybe, you'll have your own company and you'll be on this IPO already. So maybe we have to talk in less time. But where do you think this, where do you think this goes? And how do you think this, scales? How do you think it continues to evolve?
I think you should go department by department because each department it's like a small world, right? They have their own
Right.
challenges, they have their own needs, they have their own tools, and just need to go to them and show them what you did so far. What we did so far is Vira for dev because we're coming
Right.
from the dev department. These are
Right.
pains, know what to do with it, but I have no idea what's happening in the marketing department, what's their pains, what will help them to be more efficient, to have one source of truth, to feel independent. It's like closing the feature cycle loop by yourself. It's a one-woman show of doing the whole epic life
Right.
and do it super quickly. And so I think you can go department by department, ask about what they're doing, how the day-to-day job looks like, show them what we did so far so they can get inspired, and then just build something for them. Make sure you have one sailor, right? You have one contributor that is from that department and knows the product best and can speed up the process and build things by himself. And then in that way, you are going one by one by one and making sure that in each department, there is someone who will take it and
In
lead
charge
it
of this, yeah.
and be a main contributor. And then we just
Right.
go and spread the magic
Around all the
around.
departments. Yeah.
And also, bringing the tools and the processes and everything we learned so far and showing them that there's no limits and,
Yeah.
So it really is, I feel like it's a philosophical change, like it's a mindset change within the organization. What you're saying is it was spawned out of the engineering department, and you're continuing to solve all these pain points and gaps within the engineering organization. And, you're adding modules, which is all great. And you're saying you're encouraging these other folks in marketing and other teams, sales and whatever, to basically build
Operations,
finance,
QA.
it's endless. This is what I love about VIA, by the way. The size is good. It's big enough in order to make real changes and have the variety of other challenges.
Yes.
But it also feels like, one family, one startup, everyone knows everyone. And you said before, Charles, that you need to be brave enough in order to, just do something like that and jump to the water. But you also need to feel that there is trust from the other side. And we
Right.
feel like they trust us. And this is why we even thought about it and said, you know what, we can do it. Why not? Every time we went to Nevo, he's also the site manager of Vira in Israel, but he's managing that world of tech operation. He was like, yeah, go for it. Do this, do that. Make sure, right, you're good with
Amazing.
security and everything, but just keep on going. And so I think it's a dynamic that needs to be real, right? You can't fake it.
Right. For sure. For sure. Listen, this has been really, really inspiring, really exciting. I think it's definitely a major change that folks aren't fully, realizing how it's going to impact everything from engineering to product to go to market to, just so many parts of the business. You mentioned HR, finance. So it's really inspiring. And I hope this is going to inspire other folks that are non-technical to vibe code within organizations. And yeah, I hope we'll speak again. Really, really excited to see how this continues to evolve. I'm sure next time we talk, it won't be, hundreds of users, but it'll be thousands. And it'll be an even bigger product that does even more things. So very, very exciting. Thanks again for coming on board. I guess, how can people find you? Is LinkedIn the best way to get in contact with you? I'll share maybe your LinkedIn URLs in the show notes. Anything else? Not yet. I'm sure you'll be on Lenny's podcast soon talking about this as well. But between now and then, I'll make sure people have your LinkedIn so that they can get in touch with you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and thank
It
you,
was
Charles,
great.
for seeing the revolution that we're doing. The pace is crazy for us as well, right? Sometimes we're shocked from ourselves. We're like waking up in the morning. Sivan was like, no, you remember what you asked yesterday? So I built it during the night and it's ready. And I was like, no way, dude. Showing it to like a VP or someone. And they were like, we're still, I think, we don't understand the impact. I mean, we know it's big.
We understand it's big.
It's funny.
We don't
right. I feel it.
It's too fast.
You're setting precedents, and also probably the development team now is going to say, well, wait, you're shipping too fast. Now we have to start shipping faster, right? So you're putting pressure on them as well. But it's really
so many jokes around, like, hey, you can come work with our team. We can put some story point and tasks on you. Or when we were like, at the beginning, they used to laugh because we were like, what do you do with that circle in Git? How do I know? What do I need to push? What do I do with the green button? And they were like, at the beginning, they were laughing a bit. Who's laughing now, right? Now it's like, we're the product. And they're like, yeah, they're doing real things. But, it's starting to understand that it's all ours. We can all do the same things. All you need to be is like brave, curious, resourceful, and have good energy and good friends. Because if it wasn't fun for us,
it
couldn't work.
Well, I think that's an amazing last words. So thanks again for hopping on. This is going to inspire a lot of folks. And until we meet again in a couple months, 6 months maybe, and we'll see the empire you guys have created. Thanks again for coming on, guys.
Anyone can code.
Anyone can code. Love it.